A major court loss for Donald Trump in federal court. A second federal judge has now ordered that the government freeze be stopped. This was a federal judge from Rhode Island, and this was after Donald Trump purported to rescind the government freeze, but Donald Trump's press secretary, Karoline Leavitt, quite literally, as the federal court hearing was taking place, said, "We are rescinding the memorandum, but not the freeze." So then the lawyers representing the various states across the country who brought this action brought that to the judge's attention. The judge says, "I'm not really sure what to make of this. I can't cross-examine the tweet, but this seems to very clearly suggest that the government freeze is still on." Karoline Leavitt is a public official. This is her pronouncement that the freeze is taking place. So I'm going to issue a nationwide injunction blocking the freeze. And this issue is not moot. This issue is real, and this is impacting lives. So ordered. We'll talk about what happened in that federal proceeding. We also are going to talk about the purge of FBI agents by Donald Trump, DOJ officials who worked on January 6th related cases in Washington, D.C. A lot of FBI agents worked on these cases. A lot of DOJ officials worked on these January 6 cases who Donald Trump and MAGA refer to as heroes, as hostages. These are some terrorists who they continue to invite to the Capitol building, some real bad people. So as Donald Trump is pardoning terrorists, January 6th insurrectionists, some of the worst people, he is firing law and order. He's firing the FBI. He's firing DOJ officials. The union that represents the FBI agents put out a strongly worded letter, but I seem to recall that union was very supportive of the people who Donald Trump picked to lead the FBI last week, who ended up firing them all. I want to cover that all. And I think we also need to reflect here on all of this law enforcement endorsement for a lawless presidency, a lawless person in Donald Trump. We'll talk about that. Also, there's the broader government purge and its implications across kind of all areas, whether we're learning about the head of the top acting official at the Treasury Department, an individual who's a nonpartisan guy who was responsible for the system that made the trillions of dollars in payments, whether it's Social Security payments, medical payments, loans, anything coming from the government. This guy has access to all of and the system has access to all of kind of our private information. Apparently, Elon Musk demanded access to it. This top Treasury official wouldn't give Musk access to it. So this guy got pushed out so Elon Musk and the oligarchs can get all of our private information and personal information and have access to the trillions of dollars in payment systems. That's what Donald Trump's doing while egg prices continue to rise, grocery prices continue to rise. We're certainly far less safe than we were under President Biden than we are right now. I mean, that's for sure. We're going to talk about all of that. We should also talk about how with these two horrific plane crashes this week and the one plane crash over Washington, D.C., where a Black Hawk helicopter crashed into this airplane that was landing into DCA airport from Kansas, killing a total of 67 people. How 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago, the FAA director was forced out and forced to leave. Top safety committees were gutted. Staffing issues in that control tower, that specific control tower, and Trump trying to force on all federal employees, including FAA employees, this bizarre, what I think to be a very unlawful buyout of their given the severance agreement. We'll talk about that. And also you've got Donald Trump using the FCC to go after CBS, PBS, and NPR. We'll talk about that. While all this is going on too, you've got these Trumpers, all these cabinet officials who are kind of just cosplaying their roles. The whole thing looks so weird. You've got Kristi Noem, who's now the head of Homeland Security. She dresses up in different Halloween costumes every day, as sometimes she dresses up as a ranger. Sometimes she puts the vest on and she goes out and all this performative garbage crap, and they can't just do their basic function, right, Popok? The basic function of government, just keep the people safe. Let's start there. And I mean, we're less safe. Americans are not safe in a Trump America. The world is less safe, and Americans are not safe in a Trump America. That's the lesson of the week from a legal perspective and just from a common sense perspective. Good to see you, Pope.
You too, Ben. 12 days in this administration, and it has the entire Republican Party has rebranded itself as the party of chaos. That is not a that's not a winning strategy. That's not something that protects America. That's not a doctrine. That is an erratic set of behaviors where we're watching a president surrounded by people who are his enablers, who has no executive function as part of being the executive. There's no thought process. There's no deep, abiding understanding of how policy is made or what are the implications or consequences, unintended or otherwise, of your policy implications. It's just this bull in the china shop, sledgehammer to government without worrying that this is a government that is in progress. That is, right? He's trying to hollow out leadership, civil servants who know what they're doing, budget cutting, sending the states into disarray because of the amount of money that federal government is withdrawing from the economy. As I've said, not even a joke, Donald Trump is hell-bent on removing the U.S. from the U.S. economy, not understanding the fundamentals of the contribution of the U.S. and funding to the humming of the economy. The chaotic nature of it. I mean, if you didn't know better, if our audience didn't know better and you and I didn't know better from how closely we follow these things, you'd think this guy had never been president before. They spent an awful lot of time, reminding us that he was the 45 and 47th president. He's both. He's 45 and 47. How many times do they have to write that in prior filings and courts and now whenever they speak? But you wouldn't know it by how he's handling matters. Every presidency is tested at the beginning of their presidency by matters outside their control. A natural disaster, a national disaster, a war, a terrorist attack. We already just had one. And you need to grade Donald Trump and his administration on how they reacted to that. Donald Trump got up at a podium. Instead of addressing the nation and consoling them for the loss of 70 people in a horrific collision, as you said, of an Army helicopter and a plane carrying innocent civilians, some of them coming back from a figure skating competition in camp, and lawyers and doctors and firefighters and other people that are now in the Potomac or have been pulled out of the Potomac. Donald Trump takes to it what he should have done as the consoler in chief, whether he did it inside the Oval Office by a fireside or something else, is to console people, is to talk about, we're going to get to the bottom of the issue, the crisis. I'm going to announce a new space program to update the technology of the FAA that's stuck in the 1980s and 1990s. And I'm going to declare that right now that these people have not been lost in vain. All right? No. 3 minutes in, he starts using it as a cheap political hack point. While people have just started their grieving process, and America too, because it's their tragedy as well, he starts going after Pete Buttigieg, Joe Biden, Obama. Somebody hands him some screenshots from a website without telling him that was the website his own Trump FAA also used. All right, to suggest that the reason, before they even had the black box or the NTSB had done their job or the FAA had even started their job, before they even got their boots on, Donald Trump is standing in front of the American people and declaring that it was a black or brown handicapped disabled person running the air traffic control board that crashed the helicopter into the plane. That is a lie, but it supports Donald Trump's false narrative about diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is the exact same thing they did when the ship hit the bridge and led to a collapse of a bridge. Oh, DEI, if we just had white, best and brightest people there, we would all be fine. And then they got the new guy Sean Duffy, who replaced Buttigieg as the transportation secretary, said, "Thank you, Mr. President. You're so right. It's all about the best and the brightest." And this is what I want our audience, and by extension, others that come to our show. You can leave it in the comments for tonight. Does anybody think that Tulsi Gabbard to head 18 intelligence organizations for America is the best and brightest that Donald Trump could come up with? That Pete Hegseth to run the Pentagon, from his Fox and Friends couch is the best and the brightest that Donald Trump could have come up with? That RFK Jr. to be our top health official is the best and the brightest? That Dr. Oz for Medicare and Medicaid, that Kash Patel for FBI, for Pam Bondi for Attorney, this is the best and the brightest? He needs to be judged a report card for the first 12 days. We haven't even talked about the 10 cases in 5 courthouses and 3 temporary restraining orders that have already been entered in the first 12 days of the Trump administration. What is his report card, America? Okay. What are you watching as we also move into the tariff wars against our allies, and him standing, just to leave it on this, Ben, him standing in front of the American people and saying that he's going to tax Canada, which is the number one supplier in terms of what we import, of energy, of electricity, of minerals, of strategic elements that our own manufacturing sector needs in order to produce its own products. And we're going to tank that relationship because, quote unquote, we don't need trees from Canada. Trees. Okay. This isn't about trees. All right. So one of the things we're going to come away with, I think, on this particular episode, the way you've outlined the topics for today, is that we're watching the party of chaos. We're watching the chaotic leader as they lurch, as we predicted, from one abuse of power and constitutional crisis to the next. That's all they're accomplishing right now. And when it matters most, when the rubber hits the road for our national security, keeping people safe, keeping people's economic, kitchen table issues at the front of the frontal lobe of their brain, they have failed. I don't know what lower grade than F is for the first 12 days, but this is the call to action part. We need to hold the entirety of the Republican Party, municipal, local, state, federal, all the way up. Every election that happens from today forward, all the way to the midterms, has to be a resounding, crushing defeat of the chaos of the Republican Party led by Donald Trump. And if you give me, and I've said this before, if you give me back the House and the Senate, we will impeach and convict Donald Trump by the midterm. But it has to be because people are grading him on his performance that's happening right now in a national crisis.
The very concept, though, Popok, of grading his presidency still almost kind of normalizes the framework within which he is acting right now, which is he's acting so unpresidential that he's like, if we were to use the example of grades, he's the kid who's intentionally trying to get expelled, who shows up and acts so horribly, just starts basically cursing at the teacher all over and over again. It's hard to even view this 2 weeks. The most logical explanation is this one: either the most incompetent, reckless, dumbest person imaginable, or this is someone who very specifically and intentionally is actively doing the things that you would do point by point to destroy the country from within, whether it's literally internally breaking the federal government, removing people who provide for the safety. I mean, like, if you had a playbook, what would you do? You would do these things. Then internationally, destroying and ruining our alliances. I mean, every aspect is so kind of tailored to inflicting harm. And just the thing about this digital age, or where everybody's got their phones, I do think that there are people who are either people who are complacent and didn't vote, or even some Trump voters who are waking up. But because people are so living on their phones, and they've created these, kind of fake worlds around them created by right-wing media and propaganda, all of like the terror and fear, they tried to act like what was happening when Biden was in office, which was not. We had a competent government. We were stronger internationally. Things functioned. People weren't afraid to get on an airplane to get to destination point A to destination point B. The stock market was up. So like, outside of what your ecosystem was telling you, you had an objective data set to say, is this really what's happening? And you would look at it and you would say, well, actually the stock market's up. Actually, inflation's now come down. Actually, we've gotten out of the pandemic. Actually, there's 40,000 infrastructure projects taking place. Actually, we're building the semiconductor industry here. Actually, unions are thriving. Like, you could then compare. Now you can look at things and it's like 2 plane crashes in a week. Everybody's being fired. There's like total chaos. Everybody's kind of, livid. No one knows, is there going to be a new tariff? Is there going to be this? It literally is total and utter chaos. And to see the propaganda media go into overdrive, trying to sell us that somehow like this is not like, this is a Republican administration. Like, this is like literally, this is authoritarianism, craziness, call it whatever. In Popok, we didn't even say, we should just say right now, the National Labor Relations Board was gutted this past week as well. Donald Trump fired the first black female on the NLRB so that the NLRB couldn't make a quorum. And therefore the NLRB is going to be unable to recognize unions, hear grievances. So who does this help? The oligarchs. The oligarchs are going to be the people who benefit from this. People like Bezos and Musk, who were enemies to unions, got everything they wanted. This is what they were arguing for before the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. Gut the NLRB. And Trump did that by firing one of the NLRB board members and firing the NLRB general counsel. Now they say they're going to challenge it.
On that note, just before you leave out, I don't want to forget it. When he talks about hollowing out and firing civil servants, that will fall. I want you to translate. I want our audience to translate that, like Legal AF translator. That will fall disproportionately on black and brown women and minorities who are in our civil service as Donald Trump whitewashes the government. Because when he says things like the best and the brightest, regardless of color, it's colorblind, it's going to be merit, I'm going to get rid of these people, just convert that into, I am firing black and brown, disabled, gay, and women from government, and I am replacing them with 50-year-old white men.
And so they've even removed from government websites, LGBTQ. They now just go, LG or LGB. They're not recognizing in the Department of Defense Holocaust Remembrance Day, Martin Luther King Day, Juneteenth, other national holidays. I mean, just petty things like that, where there are paintings on the walls in government buildings that say things like equality and freedom and fairness. They're literally, painting over it with gray.
It's not MAGA. It's MAWA. It's Make America White Again.
It's fascism. I mean, it is fascism brought to our shores. And in the 12, 14 days, Donald Trump has done everything to bring a Putin-esque government here. And there are important signs of resisting. There's, I think that the people after a while aren't going to take it. I think you are seeing, the fact that in the past 48 hours, we're talking about 22, 23 million people watching this network. People are looking to stand up to Donald Trump and to this authoritarian regime. I think you're going to see international resistance join with resistance here in the United States against this. European Union becoming stronger together, Canada looking to Europe against the United States, France offering military to Denmark and other European nations, doing that. Mexico standing up with President Claudia Sheinbaum. One thing we as we talk about this government freeze, and I'll turn it over to you to talk about this case. Mm-hmm. Now, remember what Donald Trump said there as well. Like, what was Donald Trump's lie when he was exposed on this government freeze? Remember that first day, people's Medicaid portals were shut down. People who needed surgeries weren't sure if they were going to be able to get it. It was total and absolute chaos. And it still, frankly, is a ton of chaos. So Donald Trump and his regime go out there. And the same way, like Putin would talk about denazification of Ukraine. What does Donald Trump say? It's like the most ridiculous thing, because if you can get people to believe in absurdities, you can carry out some of the greatest atrocities. I think that quote was attributable to Voltaire, I think. So what does Donald Trump say? He goes, well, what we uncovered, the reason we needed to do this was there were condom bombs being given to Hamas by Biden. Condom bombs. We uncovered that condoms were being sent to Hamas. They were being converted to bombs, and they were being used in Gaza, and they were being used in Israel. There's zero truth to that. There was contraceptives that were sent to Gaza, Mozambique, not Gaza, Gaza. And it was in Mozambique, and there were no contraceptives even sent inside Gaza and the West Bank. The entire thing is false, but they go out there and go condom bombs. And then people believe they go, it's such a big lie. Maybe they're not condom bombs, but maybe something's going on there. So that's what their PR facing thing is. But let's get into this case.
Yeah, just one thing I do, because we're having a good thing here. Let me just, because I'm in a different place today. I'm down in Miami for the last few days. We'll talk about why in a minute. But I've run into a lot of Midas Touch and Legal AF fans down here. Actually, I said to my wife, I have a lot of good dialogue and interaction with our fan and our audience base in New York when I'm on the streets. And I said, I wonder if that's going to happen in Miami. And it did. And one in particular, I had a conversation with, as part of the Cuban American communities in his 50s. And he told me that, and I believe this is part of the resistance that you're talking about, that those that voted for Trump now are having serious, serious regret about having done so. And they're very, to paraphrase this person, he told me they're very quiet watching this last 12 days. They're not thumping their chests and coming out with the flags of the pickup trucks. He said they're almost embarrassed to watch, because many of these people came out of fascist and communist regimes, and they thought what they were voting for was the strong man for democracy, at least, which is why they came to this country. And when he says he's going to take away the temporary protective status for 600,000 Venezuelans. Do you know how many Venezuelans who are law-abiding, documented, hardworking people that vote here in Miami, that see their friends and neighbors being chased through schools, through churches, through workforce raids, who have gone underground because of it? Donald Trump's going to pay the price as a result. He has alienated. You've done a great series of videos on Midas Touch about this. He's so alienated those that voted for him, and they're having voter remorse, that if we ran the election again today with the benefit of the hindsight of the last 12 days, I don't believe he would have won.
Look, you've got Pete Hegseth, a Fox News host, running the Defense Department. The Defense Department, right? Just an actor, like a TV showman. You have Sean Duffy, who's running the Department of Transportation, who got famous from the Real World and then the Real World Road Rules Challenge. You had Kristi Noem, who killed her dog and who's doing this cosplay, dress up game. You've got RFK Jr., who spent a lot of his time on Russian television talking about how various pandemics were actually created. This is a total lie that he would say. They were created by the World Health Organization in order to kind of weaponize it, to create, these bioweapons against America. And that's why we need to withdraw from the WHO, which, by the way, America withdrew from the World Health Organization on specious and ridiculous grounds like that, totally isolating us. I mean, someone like Kash Patel, and this is you have former federal prosecutor, now California Senator Adam Schiff, who I had the privilege of interview, was examining Kash Patel at Patel's confirmation hearing, and he was asking Patel, hey, you were creating these songs with the January 6th insurrectionists, were you not? And Patel goes, I don't remember, I don't know. And then Schiff would show transcripts like we would do at a trial. Well, here you're saying, Mr. Patel, we created the song. This is what you said on the Bannon show. We created this song and we did this for the heroes and we did this for the January 6th hostages who are the real patriots. And we need to do everything we can to use our, if we get back in power, to destroy the deep state. And we need to go after anybody who went after Donald Trump and went after these insurrectionists. We. So Senator Schiff goes to Kash Patel. You said that, right? And then Kash Patel goes, well, I didn't say I did. And then Schiff goes, well, you said we. You said we. And then Patel goes, exactly, we. And then Schiff's like, you mean we doesn't include you? You were involved in that? No, we doesn't mean I. And so Adam Schiff's like, you mean to tell me when you're saying we, referring to yourself, you didn't mean you? And going back to your example, Popok, of like, how are you grading these things? You think about the student who just, doesn't even want to be there and doesn't even care. These people aren't even trying, right? They're strutting in there, not even learning, like RFK Jr., what the difference of Medicare, Part A, Part B, Part C. Like, he doesn't know the difference between Medicare and Medicaid. I don't know. I don't know.
It's like Bart Simpson as president.
I don't know. Yeah, exactly. I don't know what to do. And again, who wants, whether you're a red state, a blue state, a Democrat, an independent, a Republican, a giraffe, an elephant, I don't care. Who wants people who don't know the basic things of how to do it? And like, who would want to step on a plane with the pilot who didn't have the pilot training? Well, guess what? Now we have the people directing the agencies to direct the pilots who don't know what the hell they're doing. That's what we have right now. We have a lot to discuss. Popok, we touched on lots of legal issues, lots of facts, meandered through that first segment. We'll get back and we'll structure this for the second segment. But I know you've got a very big announcement. Michael Popok, you're actually starting your own law firm. You've decided that you're going to go and start your own firm. You've been motivated by these times. Tell everybody about that.
Thanks, Ben. You and I kicked it around a long time ago. I've been in law firms before, of course, most of my career, except when I was in-house with a company in New York. But ever since the election, there were two things that I had a burning desire to do. One of them was to get the Legal AF YouTube channel up and running in collaboration with the MeidasTouch Network. And that's going great, as we know, because of our support of our audience, most of which overlaps with the MeidasTouch audience. We're up to almost 450,000 there. The second thing was, what was I going to do with my career moving forward? And I made a commitment to you and the brothers that I was going to be invested and basically full-time on MeidasTouch and with Legal AF, and that was going to be my calling, especially after the results of the election. It became almost a no-brainer that I was going to that I was going to invest myself in that. Of course, my family was going to back me, and you and your brothers were going to do that. So we had that, and then there was like this opening. Like, what was I going to do with 35 years of a law career? Was I just going to focus only on doing legal analyst work and other commentary here on the MeidasTouch Network and Legal AF, or was I going to also try as an extension of Legal AF, if you will, of an extension of our ethos or philosophy here that you developed with your brothers, and then of course I joined? Is there a way to do a law firm for our audience and for those in our orbit, in our environment, our ecosystem, that made sense, that I could lead? And came up with the idea of, and this is going to be easy, the Popok firm. We're here already. We might as well use it. The Popok firm is now a firm dedicated to obtaining justice for those that have been injured or damaged, any kind of catastrophic event in your life, motor vehicle, an auto, or truck. And these include people in and around your life. So if you've had a catastrophic injury there, constitutional law issues where a government entity has violated police brutality, things like that, employment law issues, anywhere where you need a top flight team of lawyers throughout the country. This is a very broad ambit, all 50 states and beyond, for the Popok firm. I already have and I'll announce it here as well, a collaboration with an amazing team of lawyers, all top in their field for recovery, where the highest dollar amounts mean justice, that's where you want these lawyers. I'm doing the collaboration with an entity called Big Auto Injury Attorneys. And Big Auto Injury Attorneys is a network. There's Nick Edson, who's the CEO of Big Auto, on my website. And Big Auto is going to handle the onboarding of the clients, the vetting of the clients, and the case evaluation, and get it into the hands of the right top lawyer in the right jurisdiction. Right. So if you got hurt in Alabama, or you got hurt in New Hampshire, you got hurt in a red state or a blue state, or in the between the two of them, you're going to want a lawyer who knows the judges, the law, because law in this area is very local. And so my role is going to be to manage this entire process and make sure, in collaboration with Big Auto, we get these cases into the right hands. And don't be fooled by the name. Big Auto is beyond just auto. It's one of their brands, of course. And I'll be involved, on some of the cases, but on a day-to-day basis, it's really going to be these lawyers handling these matters for you in collaboration with me. So the Popok Firm, place you can go for it, www.thepopokfirm.com, just the way it sounds. We've got an amazing 1-800 number that you and I joked about, 1-877-POPOK-AF, 1-877-POPOK-AF. A contact form will show up, a free case review form. There's a version of it. And if you phone the number or text the number, then one of the great screeners for Big Auto will take over and get that case up and running, all for free. Nothing gets paid unless you win. Again, all for free at the Popok Firm for Justice, here as a natural extension, of course, of my work with Midas Touch and Legal AF.
Well, Popok, I remember, people don't know the origin story of us. I was on the opposite side of you on a case, and I remember what a incredible lawyer you were. That's how we initially bonded. It's getting close to over a decade ago, right around a decade ago, when we had that case together. So, look, I know you're one of the best. For me, I'm going to stick to my teaching as a law professor and doing all the stuff I do here at the Midas Touch Network, but it's an incredible resource to everybody else that they're going to get to, utilize everything that you're building. I'm wishing you the best. And of course, you're going to crush it. I know you crush everything that you do. So everybody check it out. And I know you were saying, Popok, the consultation is free. The representation is free unless until there's a recovery. And, you get
and
Michael.
I'll run an ad. I'm going to create an ad. I'm still on the road, as people know. We just did the launch of the Popok Firm at an amazing event, the National Trial Lawyers Summit in Miami Beach, surrounded by other plaintiffs' lawyers. And there's a great picture. I did an interview for Legal AF. It's going to be up on Monday. I did a special live Legal AF on the spot there at the hotel. That's Omarosa. She's amazing. She just became a lawyer for the Johnny Cochran firm, where she's going to go help mass tort victims and other people. And here's a little, I think we're going to get a regular Omarosa who has her own, views of Donald Trump on Legal AF, the channel. She can start doing some hot take work with us there as well.
I like that. All right, let's take our first quick break of the show. We'll be back. Popok, government freeze order. Let's talk about these terminations. Are we going to see wrongful termination lawsuits being filed? And I think there's going to be perhaps tens of thousands, millions of wrongful term lawsuits filed against the U.S. government, resulting in billions of dollars in verdicts. There'll probably be a whole cottage industry right there. And we'll talk about these terminations of these FBI officials and more. Let's take our first quick break of the show.
Physio, chiropractic, and massage therapy are all great resources for when you need them. But going to these appointments every few months does not give me the ultimate results I'm looking for when it comes to my well-being. It's taking daily, even hourly opportunities to move my body that makes the biggest difference. This has only been made possible for me with this episode's sponsor, Uplift Desk. Uplift Desk is at the forefront of ergonomic solutions, promoting better posture and health through adjustable standing desks designed to help you live a healthier lifestyle. Plus, they have all kinds of accessories to keep you moving throughout the day, even if you work for only a few hours at your desk. For me, I love the Bamboo Motion X board. It makes me feel like snowboarding without waiting for the lift. Standing while I work gives me the room to move and helps me get the creative juices flowing. Moving throughout the day helps me focus and stay productive. And I'm way more alert when I'm using my standing desk and I have more energy. A desk should fit the user. which is why Uplift Desk has a lot of customization options so you can build your perfect workspace. With more than 200,000 configurations, Uplift Desk allows you to tailor your workspace to perfectly suit your style and needs, empowering you to create an environment that inspires productivity and creativity. For me, I built the custom standing desk of my dreams from Uplift for my Popak Media offices, where I make a lot of my hot takes and content for Legal AF. And so I went all out with a heritage oak top and their advanced angled keypad for the lift part. Make this year yours by going to upliftdesk.com/legalaf and use our code LegalAF to get 4 free accessories, free same-day shipping, free returns, and an industry-leading 15-year warranty that covers your entire desk, and an extra discount off your entire order. That's upliftdesk.com/legalaf for a special offer, and it's only available at our link. Start 2025 right. Stand, move, thrive with Uplift Desk. Finally, a resolution that isn't a pain in the ass. Tushy bidets fit on your toilet in under 10 minutes, improving your health and saving you time and money every time. Now look, I always understood bidets from an analytical level, like I get that fresh water down there is a way better option than regular toilet paper alone. But I always thought that it was only for royalty, or at least a European hotel next to that shower that has no glass divider. But let's face it, a bidet is just better, as long as you can find one at the right price point, and that doesn't require an advanced plumbing degree to install. So I was so thrilled that our next sponsor joined our channel. Tushy is the modern bidet attachment that instantly transforms your bathroom habits and your rear side health for life. The Tushy bidet easily attaches to your existing toilet without the need for additional plumbing or electricity. Washing with a precise stream of fresh water removes 99% of bacteria compared to wiping with toilet paper. Installation is simple and takes about 10 minutes to complete. Literally anyone can do it. Tushy bidet gives you 2-in-1 benefits, reducing irritation and preventing micro tears with soothing water instead of scratchy toilet paper or damaging wet wipes. Every Hello Tushy bidet comes with a 30-day hassle-free return and a 12-month warranty. Instantly improve your health from the bottom up. For a limited time, our listeners get 10% off your first bidet order when you use code LegalAF at checkout. That's 10% off your first bidet order at hellotushy.com with promo code LegalAF.
All right, welcome back to Legal AF. Thank you to those pro-democracy sponsors. We don't have outside investors here on Legal AF or the Midas Touch Network, so they help make this show possible. My younger brother, Jordy, negotiates the discount codes with them. So in the description below of this YouTube video or of the audio podcast, depending on where you get it, you'll see those discount codes. Try out any of those products and services. Great stuff right there. All right. Popak, tell us about what Judge McConnell in Rhode Island did.
Yeah, and let me put it in quick context. 12 days into the administration, we got 10 lawsuits. Split between birthright citizenship being denied by executive order, which is on a fast track ultimately to the Supreme Court, and a whole another handful about whether the freeze, or what we'll call in the business the impoundment of federal funds by Donald Trump by executive order, is constitutional or not. Got up and I want to talk about strategy here for a minute so that our audience has comfort that we're not the party of chaos, and the lawyers that are for public interest and for justice are not chaotic. They are quite skilled, quite expert as tacticians and strategists, and they've been waiting for this moment. Should it arrive, and it's now here. All the cases that you and I will talk about today and on Hot Takes, all of them that have been filed are in the following jurisdictions. We're in Washington and California, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, the District of Columbia. And there's a reason for why these jurisdictions were chosen, because they all have the better chance of having a judge. I'm not saying a non-Trump judge, but just a judge who is fair, balanced, nonpartisan, or at least was appointed by somebody like Biden, Obama, or even Clinton. And that's what's happened. So we're only 12 days into an administration, and we have 3 different judges who have blocked Donald Trump's executive orders. Two, Judge Ali Khan down in D.C. and Judge McConnell now we'll talk about up in Rhode Island, related to this federal funding freeze. To bring everybody up to speed, Donald Trump decided he's going to take the U.S. out of the U.S. economy. All the money, the trillions of dollars, or at least hundreds of billions of dollars that the federal government gives to states to run programs that are important as a social safety net for seniors, for children, for healthcare, for construction, for crime, for safety, for security, and not for profits, for art. And everything else, right? And national disaster recovery, all of that, he just decided with a stroke of a pen that he was going to put it on hold with 1 day notice, sending all of the states into chaos, all of the recipients into a panic. It was so bad that the Medicare and Medicaid portal crashed. Not that RFK Jr. knows what either of those two things are, but it crashed because people were so concerned. It created a stampede or a run on the government by people, which nobody was calmed, speaking of lack of consoler in chief, by an inexperienced Carolyn Levitt as press secretary, basically lying to the American people about what the freeze impacted in their lives and what it didn't. It's so bad that Judge McConnell, the chief judge in Rhode Island, in issuing the temporary restraining order against the Trump administration freeze order, cited particularly that he didn't believe Carolyn Levitt or the government, that they had temporarily withdrew the freeze. See, when they saw that the judge had jurisdiction, they thought they could deny the judge jurisdiction over the case, because in order for a temporary restraining order to be in place, somebody has to show ongoing future harm. If you don't have future harm, you may have damages, money, but you don't have a restraining order or an injunction, because there's no live controversy, or more importantly, there's no future bad event that needs to be prevented. So if all the events already happened and aren't planning to happen again, then the judge would say, sorry, I can't give you an injunction because you got to tell me what future event's going to happen. So the Trump administration ran into court and said, oh, it's all moot. We don't have to have you make a ruling right now because we're not going to do the freeze. The judge says, yeah, I don't believe you. Because at the same time that Carolyn Levitt said that the freeze was off, she then posted on social media that the freeze was back on. And the Environmental Protection Agency sent a notice to recipients of federal money and said, don't spend the money. We're not sending you the money. This is in the moments around the hearing in front of the judge. And the judge, of course, because the good lawyers are on the other side, got all the copies of these things and said, well, I got these tweets. I can't cross-examine a tweet, but it sure looks like to me that there's chaos in the Trump administration, and it looks like the freeze has not really been blocked. So no, I'm going to issue the temporary restraining order because it is more likely than not that you will prove at the end of this case. Remember, at a temporary restraining order, the judge is at the very beginning of the case, in the life cycle of the case, has very little evidence in front of them and at a first round of briefing, but has to make an immediate decision based on kind of peering under the hood about what's going to happen in the future. And the judge, under this prong that we call likelihood of success on the merits, said it is very likely that you're going to win to prove that that attempt to F with federal funding and freeze it, that's a different F word, but to freeze it, is unconstitutional, a violation of separation of powers, a violation of the Administrative Procedures Act, because Congress made the law and did not delegate to the president the right to block the funding that they already allocated. So he's basically pointing to the lawyers in the courtroom, and on the state's side, brought by the attorneys general, you guys are going to likely win. Balance of equities is in your favor because of how dramatic and drastic this pulling out of federal funding with no notice. So you win on that one, and it's in the public interest that I restore the status quo. Temporary restraining order is the first step towards a preliminary injunction. The judge set a preliminary injunction hearing for February, is holding the ring until then, and at the very same time, this is not the first. This is the second TRO. Because Judge Ali Khan in the District of Columbia, on almost a similar set of arguments raised by a different group of people, but on the same issues, on the same freeze, she also blocked it until February 3rd, which is just around the corner in 2 days, when she holds a further briefing on a preliminary injunction hearing. So to answer the question that often comes up in the chat, yes, different federal judges are on different tracks. They don't defer to each other. They move forward with their own cases. They may know and acknowledge what another judge has recently done in the same exact area, but they're on their own timetables, and they will issue decisions, each of which can be appealed separately to their respective appellate courts. One would be Ali Khan to the DC Court of Appeals, this one to the First Circuit. And that's how we're going to ultimately get these fast tracks to the United States Supreme Court on emergency applications. And that's why I've said it, I'll say it again here. Follow closely, both here on Midas Touch and on Legal AF, what's going to happen in the Supreme Court, because between now and the April end of the term, we're going to see birthright citizenship up at the Supreme Court. We're going to see the federal freeze up at the United States Supreme Court. And then you and I are going to be doing a whole show about what the Supreme Court just ruled.
That's why we've been giving people the playbook and the framework for how these cases are going to work their way up. I mean, remember last year, Popak, you were saying, look, these cases are ready to go. They're going to go to all of these jurisdictions. They're going to request national injunctions if and when Trump does these things. We're seeing that play out now. They're going to go through the courts of appeals. They're going to go to the Supreme Court. And then ultimately the question becomes, and this is what we've been preparing our audience for, is there now some realignment on the court where you have six right-wing justices, six right-wing justices, three quote-unquote liberal justices appointed by Democratic administrations, and with the Supreme Court ruling when Donald Trump was trying to block his sentencing, where you had a new 5-4 alignment of the three liberal justices, along with Chief Justice Roberts, a right-wing justice appointed by George W. Bush, and Amy Coney Barrett, a justice appointed by Donald Trump. Does that 5-4 develop as a way to check Donald Trump, as Trump has taken the absolute immunity that the Supreme Court gave him during its last term, and is doing everything the Supreme Court naively was saying that they didn't think he was going to do? Everybody remembers the Supreme Court's questioning, where you had the liberal justices who were essentially saying in their questioning, and they were saying, well, don't you think that if you provided absolute immunity, that someone like a Donald Trump would use it, abuse it, and try to be dictator on day one? The right-wing justices were saying, whoa, we don't think that'll ever happen. What we're worried about is that if you don't give absolute immunity, you're going to somehow chill the executive function. You're going to prevent the executive from doing the real serious work that needs to be done. We don't see any of these parade of horribles actually happening, and then Trump's doing those things. So let's be very clear. I mean, Justice Brett Kavanaugh, Justice Neil Gorsuch, Clarence Thomas, and Alito, those four will be perfectly fine if Donald Trump just literally says, I'm a dictator, everybody, and I declare America an imperial country. Like, let's be clear. Those four will do any single thing that he says, period, full stop. And look, I think Alito and Clarence Thomas probably resign in this term. And I think that they'll probably, have new justices appointed. We're going to be, younger, far right-wing, extreme people. Probably my prediction, Popak, is you'll have Judge Cannon as one of the Supreme Court justices. We'll see, but I think that's what's going to happen, and we'll see who else gets picked. But you're going to have younger, horrific versions of them. So assume you'll always have those four. The issue is you have to look for Roberts and Coney Barrett joining with Ketanji Brown Jackson, and joining with Judge Kagan, and joining with Justice Sotomayor. So that's what we're going to see. Let's take our last quick break of the show. A reminder, Popak, where do people go for? I got to play. If you're starting something new, I'm obligated to plug it. Popak, what's the? Even if what's it called? Popak, how do I get there?
It's www. The Popak Firm. It's really easy to remember. The Popak Firm. That's the website, and the 1-800 number 1-877 Popak AF. This is 35 years in the making, certainly 5 years in the making, on the shoulders of Legal AF and the Midas Touch Network, to help people who need justice. And of course, this is all free. We don't get paid. Nobody gets paid on the Popak firm unless you get paid. And I'm here for it. I know you're here for it. Appreciate the support.
Absolutely. All right, let's take our last quick break of the show. Let's get into what Donald Trump is doing with the FCC and his own personal lawsuits, and how he's trying to extract personal settlements by using the government. In any other situation, one might have the opinion that that's what's called illegal, unlawful, impeachable. We'll talk about that and more. Let's take our last quick break of the show.
This episode is sponsored by Laundry Sauce, which is an incredible new product that I am obsessed with. In fact, I gave it to everyone I know for the holidays, and I know people who are now ordering it and subscribing. It's really fantastic because everybody hates doing laundry. Let's be real. I don't like doing laundry, but doing laundry is something everybody has to do. But laundry detergent hasn't changed over the years. It's been the same options, the same smells. Everything that you have had since you were a child is what laundry detergent is. But Laundry Sauce has created a new product, and it smells amazing and it washes great. It's just a great replacement that I am now using for all of my laundry. I will say it is the world's best smelling laundry pod, so that your clothes don't have to smell like your grandmother's perfume anymore. Imagine stepping into a room and smelling like Australian sandalwood. This rugged, warm, earthy scent is guaranteed to get you compliments with every hug. Warning, Laundry Sauce will cause you to be known as the woman who always smells amazing, or guy. I hope that's okay with you. Don't stress about remembering to put on your perfume or your cologne, because everything you run through the wash will now have this incredible scent. Each Laundry Sauce pod is highly concentrated with 4 times more cleaning power than the traditional liquid laundry detergents, and it's enriched with bioenzymes. They don't just smell incredible, they tackle the toughest stains while also reviving fabrics. So for a limited time only, our listeners get 20% off your entire order when you use code LEGALAF20 at laundrysauce.com. That's 20% off your order at laundrysauce.com with promo code LEGALAF20. It's time to get saucy, but it's really great. Just please go to laundrysauce.com and enter code LEGALAF20. You're not going to regret it. It's really a great new product. I don't know why someone didn't think of this sooner. All right, ladies, listen up. If you're like me, Valentine's shopping for your guy usually means stressing out over trying to find something that he'll look good in, maybe even sexy, but also something he'll actually wear. He doesn't wear pants so tight that they're cutting off his circulation. You don't want him looking like he just stumbled out of bed for your next date night. Well, you're in luck, because Public Rec has developed pants that feel as comfortable as sweatpants, but look as nice as something he can wear anywhere. Take it from me. My husband is now wearing them. He loves them. He says, "Where has this been all my life?" It is so comfortable, and it looks really good for his professional wear to go to work. So I got my husband the Daymaker pants. They're great for hanging out with our friends or for lazy days around the house. They have so many great style options that are perfect for if you're a golfer or you want to go out to dinner, or even when you want to go into the office. So whether you're planning a cozy night in or a special night out, Public Rec has your guy covered. He'll love how comfortable they feel. You'll love how great he looks when you step out together this Valentine's Day. Skip the cliches and get him something he'll actually love. This is really a great product. I mean it. If my husband wears it, then you know that it's great, because he's very particular. So for a limited time, they have a special deal where you can get 20% off your entire order with code LEGALAF at publicrec.com. That's 20% off when you use promo code LEGALAF at publicrec.com. Your hunt for the perfect Valentine's Day gift is over. So for a limited time only, get your 20% off using code LEGALAF at checkout. That's publicrec.com. And after you purchase, I'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Happy gifting.
All right. Welcome back to Legal AF. Thank you to those pro-democracy sponsors. Really appreciate them. Again, we don't have outside investors, so it's so helpful when we have outside sponsors who help and support this show. And thank you, by the way, to all of our moderators. They do such great work. Thank you to all the legal AFers out there. Thank you to everybody who's subscribed to MidasPlus.com and gets our newsletter. Just thank you to everybody in general. We are so grateful for all of you. All right, Popok, why don't we talk about Trump using the FCC, right? Trump appointed his people to the FCC, his own chairman to the FCC. And these are people who we knew would just do Trump's bidding. So a few things are happening. So we knew end of last year, Trump got ABC to pay him $15 million on that Stephanopoulos lawsuit, which was a ridiculous lawsuit where, Stephanopoulos described the sexual assault verdict in New York a certain way, and Donald Trump said, yes, it was only sexual assault with my finger and it was not rape, so therefore you defame me. That was essentially the lawsuit that Donald Trump filed. Stephanopoulos and ABC caved. Specifically Disney, the parent company, wrote a $15 million check. Everybody was like, most normal legal observers were like, okay, that's the most ridiculous thing ever. That was not a strong, most legal observers felt that was like the weakest defamation case. And what was Trump going to say at his deposition? What were you going to do when you asked Donald Trump about the underlying conduct, what he was found liable for? I think Donald Trump would show up to that deposition and show up at trial. I think he wouldn't, but ridiculous. Then we learned that Donald Trump settled with Meta and Facebook, some lawsuit that Donald Trump filed against them back from 2021 for blocking him after the insurrection or muting him after the insurrection. And Zuckerberg paid Donald Trump $25 million. I think it was like 22 to the library, 3 million in legal fees. So now Donald Trump's next kind of target, if you will, is CBS. Donald Trump filed a lawsuit in Texas before a federal judge, Matthew Kacsmaryk, who's a very pro-MAGA judge. You know him from the Midas Touch Network and Legal AF because we cover all of those cases where he makes all of these like ridiculous rulings, whatever Trump basically wants, whatever MAGA wants, regardless of the law, he gives it to them. So all of the MAGA and Trump people try to find some frivolous basis to get the court cases there. It's where Elon Musk files his lawsuits. They all try to push it before this MAGA judge, basically. And he's their go-to guy. So Donald Trump filed what he called an unfair business practices case under Texas law. And that's why he claims it was in Texas, because he basically said 60 Minutes was mean to him, that they wanted to fact check him. So he didn't do the 60 Minutes interview, but then 60 Minutes interviewed Vice President Kamala Harris the same way 60 Minutes interviewed every presidential candidate over the past several decades, pretty much since the existence of 60 Minutes becoming a very kind of popular show. And then Donald Trump said, you selectively edited a portion out in one of your promo versions of the show about certain questions about Gaza. And there was a full version of it that was up that anybody can see. I think there was another version that was based on a certain timeline that had some things that weren't on the full version, but anybody could go and watch the full version. It's what networks do all the time. It wasn't like editing it out to collude with Kamala to be helpful. It was just what happens if that was the standard, when Fox actually makes the edits to help Donald Trump and brings in fake audiences, to me, that's the concern, not when to literally fit the time frame of 60 minutes of broadcast, that literally not every single thing can be included. But 60 Minutes shows, there's a full broadcast out there. They're not trying to hide anything, unlike Fox and the Trump propaganda networks that try to hide everything. So Donald Trump sued CBS and Paramount in Texas, and now Trump wants to try to get them to settle. So a lot of these companies, Paramount, run by oligarchs, the Sumner Redstone family. Sumner passed away. His daughter runs the company now. It's the Redstone estate that basically runs it. You got Facebook, which is run by, Zuckerberg. You've got, Disney, which, by the way, one of the main shareholders in Disney, not a lot of people know this, is actually Fox. But a lot of other oligarchs can, have major shares in Disney as well. And so what Trump does is basically now weaponizes the government, the DOJ, FCC, other things to basically say, look, big corporations, I'm going to screw up your stock. I'm going to screw up I'm going to make it miserable for you. And I'm going to stop your mergers. I'm going to prevent you from having sales of things. So one of the things that Paramount is trying to do is they're trying to sell. The Redstone family wants out. They're trying to get their $1 billion, for the next, 30 generations of the 100 generations for the Redstone family forever. They want to sell this thing that Sumner Redstone, built and sell it. They're in a deal to do that. That requires approval by FCC, by DOJ. So now what does Donald Trump do? He has his FCC open up an inquiry into CBS and Paramount, demanding that they respond to a number of requests, turn over things. Then you have CBS and Trump in a personal lawsuit from Trump's personal lawsuit over the 60 Minutes in Texas. They announced to the judge that they're in settlement discussions. Then the FCC sends that letter. And now I think there's this situation, Popok, where Paramount, the owner of CBS, they're like, okay, all we have to do is just write Trump a check for, personally, give him money, give him 30 million, give him 40 million, and then maybe we can get our merger to go through. I think you have the 60 Minutes folks who are proud journalists saying, we're journalists, we're 60 Minutes, we have a proud tradition. We're not going along with this. I think you have the CBS execs probably more aligned, probably divided, but more aligned with their Paramount overlords and their oligarchs who control it because those execs are making a lot of money. So you've got all of that kind of tension taking place there. And by the way, in my opinion, Popok, I know I kind of cannibalized that topic. I'll give you the next one. But this is exactly what the First Amendment, this is the most clear-cut First Amendment violation where the government's coming in, chilling the speech of the media, and you have an FCC commissioner, another FCC commissioner is saying right now, a whistleblower, but one of the people on that commission, the small commission, saying this is unlawful. What we're doing, what we're being forced to do is criminal, is not okay, is totally wrong. We should not be doing this at all. It's a violation of the First Amendment. And then you have Trump doing something similar with PBS and NPR, at the same time and attacking them because he wants to shut them down.
Yeah, you've got, I'll just do 2 lines on it. All of the things that you just outlined are going to find their way, most of them are going to find their way into the court system. Back to Legal AF for a minute. They are violations of various things like separation of powers, abuse of executive power, bribery in plain sight. There's one way to look at the $25 million that Meta is paying. They're overpaying for purported injuries that they don't have to pay for because, as you said, they're covered by the First Amendment. So if you remove the phony dispute, then it's just a cash transaction between media and Trump. We have a name for that. You've used it in another hot take, and I agree with you. When you're lining the pockets of somebody in return for something else or for favored regulation, it has a B at the beginning of it. So all of that public interest groups I find very interesting. And when public interest groups and attorneys general find things interesting, that often leads to a lawsuit, meaning the courts and the favorable ones, not the Kaczmarek courts, but the favorable ones to moderate thinking in the New England and the District of Columbia, in the Pacific Northwest and California, reliable places to stop Donald Trump. We have no choice as an American people and lawyers to do what we're doing in the resistance. I've said, this is a line that I got from another contributor on Legal AF. We have to start talking truth to each other before we can talk truth to power. That's part of what we do here in our audience on Legal AF. And the speaking truth to each other is we have to bring Donald Trump to justice civilly and his administration to justice in courthouses, in courtrooms in America. Because we can't let history, as Judge Kofodor said when he blocked the birthright citizenship executive order denying constitutionally protected citizenship to those born on this soil. We can't be in a situation where future generations look back and say, where were the judges? Where were the lawyers? Right. Or, when we talk about black stains on our history, like the Holocaust, when Jews, Gypsies, Russians, and others, gay, lesbian community were being dragged off to concentration camps. Where were the fill in the blank? Where was the court system? Where were the judges and where were the lawyers to stand up to that? And so to make sure that Donald Trump is reined in from his reign of terror as much as possible, we have to continue to go there. I'll leave you on this statistic. And you and I can open this up as a time capsule in 4 years, okay? Because we're going to be here. And here's the time capsule moment. Right now, his administration is averaging about one lawsuit a day. Think about that. One lawsuit a day, and these courts have been filed, resulting in 3 temporary restraining orders, and we're 12 days into his administration. I have said that by my math, I believe that's going to double, if not triple. There were 1,000 lawsuits filed in the first administration against the first administration. 80% were successful, just to answer the question for people. I believe that number is going to double, if not triple, meaning we're going to see 2 to 3 lawsuits per day, every day in the Trump administration from now until the end of his administration. And just to answer another query that often comes up, most cases do not end up at the United States Supreme Court. The final justice for the vast majority of cases, and I mean like 99% of the cases, stays at the district court level, the trial court level, or the court right above it, the Court of Appeals for that particular territory. So I'll give you an example. I'll give you one example. Just since 2022, with the Supreme Court decision about the Second Amendment, there have been 1,600 cases about trying to apply their Second Amendment ruling about basically gutting all regulation against guns. 1,600 federal judges have had to deal with that issue, right? Only about 60 total cases end up at the United States Supreme Court on any one docket. So the tens of thousands of other cases that go on every day in federal courts that touch our lives are decided by federal judges, trial, and appellate judges, and not the United States Supreme Court. Yes, the ones the Supreme Court take, right, can change our lives and our rights and our privileges and our status in a heartbeat, in a flip of a coin. But justice is done at these other courts, and that's why we have to hold Donald Trump accountable when we tell a terrible tale like what's going on with mainstream media bending over because of their fear of being regulated and fined by the FCC and being put out of business, or they're going to lose government contracts because most of the tech bros, the brawligarchs, they also have government contracts. And it's not just Elon Musk. Amazon has billions in government contracts for computing, for cloud-based things and technology. They all have or want government contracts, and they want to make money with this administration for quote unquote their shareholders, even if it means sacrificing the First Amendment. I think that's why we're here on independent media doing independent analysis and commentary.
Look, you talk about these 1 or 2 or 3 lawsuits a day. Those are the big, like, injunctive relief type cases. What I think you're really referring to, the state, like the case that we talked about in Rhode Island, the big one that was that national injunction from this week, stopping the government freeze at around the same time that Trump claimed to rescind the freeze, but then Trump's press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, said, we just rescinded the memo that called for the freeze, but not the freeze itself. That was brought by the state attorney, the state attorney generals in the states. But Popok, there are going to be tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of lawsuits filed by the people who Donald Trump is wrongfully terminating within the federal government. I mean, think about if you are a FBI agent, you were just terminated for doing your job and stopping and trying to investigate criminal January 6th insurrectionists, people who tried to kill the police, and you were just fired. That quite literally fits the definition of a wrongful termination in violation of public policy perfectly. And Popok, I know that By the way, these are the types of cases that I know your firm is going to handle. It's the type of cases that I handled when I was in private practice too. These wrongful termination cases. And by the way, there would be wrongful termination cases with one plaintiff who was, forced out for trying to report violence in workplace, where I've seen verdicts for one person as high as $50 million. $75 million. They talk about someone who was violent at the workplace and then their job, they get fired. I've seen juries award 50 to 75 million. Imagine the lawsuit that these FBI agents who were just pushed out, fired by Donald Trump are going to have, these DOJ officials are going to have, these career civil servants are going to have. The Justice Department ordered this FBI purge. The FBI agents union was like, we're shocked. I tell you, how did this happen? I mean, we told you this was going to happen. Even if you read the statement by the FBI Agents Association, they go, if true, these outrageous actions by acting officials are fundamentally at odds with the law enforcement objectives outlined by President Trump and his support for FBI agents. What do you mean? What are you talking about? He doesn't support FBI agents. Dude hates FBI. He hates FBI agents. They were going after Christopher Wray, your previous head of the FBI, and saying the most horrific things. Their whole Republican campaign was based on hating the FBI. So that the FBI goes, whoa, this is at odds with what he said. And by the way, it's actually not at odds. He says he hates the FBI. He does something that is hateful of the FBI. If he was actually, maybe this is the one thing he was consistent of here. So you have that. But just think about all of the DOJ officials that were fired, the FAA officials that were fired, across all government, the U.S. aid officials. These people are going to sue. The general counsel for the National Labor Relations Board was fired. I think that these people who, in order to fire them, you have to hit certain standards. All of the inspector generals that he fired, the 17 inspector generals, the watchdogs, quite literally, you have to give 30 days notice of termination. You have to provide specific grounds. Trump didn't do that. These cases are admitted liability, wrongful termination cases. And I think you're going to see a tsunami of those lawsuits. And here's the thing. Who defends the lawsuits? When the government gets sued for, now I think it's going to be billions, hundreds of billions, if you're going to add up all of these lawsuits, who's going to defend? Who? Alina Habba? Who? Trump's lawyers? Who's going to take these cases? You fired everybody. What happens if the 2 million people who were offered, I think, these fake unlawful severance buyouts because, and notice they're like not calling it like full buyouts. They're calling it like a phased out plan. They're calling it a different name because you can't do a buyout per se. Like a buyout has to be prescribed by law. And so they're trying to call it some other phase out. But what if everybody accepted it? What if all 2 million people took it? What if everyone's like, sure, we're out? You wouldn't have a federal government.
One boomerang on that. Yes. First of all, the 7-month furlough, which is not a furlough, he's never going to pay these people. The firing against civil service laws and merit board laws that are going to lead to these thousands of lawsuits that you're talking about. Because some people might be thinking, wow, this is really weird. No president's ever done this before. No president's ever done it before because it's all illegal. And now you and I as taxpayers are going to have to pay the freight for the lawsuits and the settlements and the class action settlements and the mass settlements that are going to result from his actions, leaving us. That's on the money and litigation side. Fortunately, there's a group in the resistance that are saying, we're not taking the buyouts. We're going to stay and defend the Constitution. That's why I'm not so thrilled with the Treasury guy you mentioned at the top, who is the keeper of all of my information. And those of the American people going, F it. I'll just throw the keys to Elon Musk. I'm not going to be a participant in this. No, you should have stayed in your seat to make sure that Doge doesn't get access to this information at the very heart of our economy and Treasury. So I don't want people to quit like Christopher Wray. I want them to stay and get dragged out like Inspector General Fong from her post, kicking and screaming. I want the world to see that Donald Trump is dragging inspector generals who are apolitical and independent watchdogs. He's dragging them out of the government for all the reasons that we just talked about. But you're right. If all of these lawsuits, that's why they're going to be coming. So I think I'm going to win my time capsule bet. It's going to be 10 times that per day. I told Salty I wanted a meter, an odometer for Donald Trump's the suits against this administration. Because but look, that's why we're here. We're here to sort through it all, curate it all for you, and bring it to you here on Legal AF and the Midas Touch Network. Right?
The Department of Justice has a criminal division and a civil division, right? The criminal division prosecutes, in theory, crimes, or for Donald Trump now protects his crimes, or crimes with him. And then you have the civil division, which handles all of these lawsuits that get filed. There's lots of lawsuits that get filed against the government every day. So if you've gutted all of the career people and you don't have people working at the DOJ and you don't have smart people working at the DOJ, when all of these lawsuits hit, it's what happens if you have a control tower where the staff quits, and what happens if you don't have, and then they have to monitor the airplane traffic. What happens if you don't have people who are working, to make sure that your fruit is safe and that the railroads are safe, and that what if you don't have these people? The railroad goes off the rail. That's what happens. What happens when you don't have the proper air traffic safety people? What happens when you don't have the proper, military people in place? This is what we're going to see. And the final message I leave everybody with is kind of where we started, is that at its most basic core, the kind of concept of government, like if you were to take Government 101, is to try to keep safety, like a modicum of safety. And if you ask yourself, are you more or less safe than you were 12, 13 days ago? You are by far less safe. And in Trump's America, it's at its core level, before even getting into the kind of, hierarchy of needs, the safety box hasn't been checked. So when you're doing basic things, you have to think, wait a minute, is this strawberry going to hurt me? Do we have are the labels correct? Is there going to be an outbreak? I mean, of tuberculosis? Like, what is happening right now? So
if you're injured by the Trump administration and its failed policies, where do you go? The Popok Firm, popokfirm.com.
Well, there you have it. So Michael Popok, though, I'll leave it on that. Popok started his own firm. I'm wishing you all the best, Popok, in your endeavors. I know that it was always your dream to start your own law firm, and I think you're doing it at a time where people need good lawyers. And so, where do they go to reach out to your firm? Yeah,
www.thepopokfirm.com. And if you want to call and have a case evaluated, all for free, 1-877 Popok AF. What else? Thank you for.
And I know that catastrophic accidents, injuries, car accidents, wrongful terminations, exactly. Sexual harassment, and anything like that. Send to these. I know that's what you're handling. All right. Thank you to our pro-democracy sponsors. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Everybody, hit subscribe. Help us get to 4 million subscribers here on the Midas Touch Network. We're going to hit that pretty quickly, that 4 million subscriber point. So hit subscribe. Subscribe to Legal AF on audio as well. We'll be with you every step of the way. Thanks for watching. Shout out Legal AFer. Shout out Midas Mighty.